Well, folks, the hits just keep on coming, and no, I'm not talking about that beautiful 9-game win streak for your New York Knicks. I, of course, am talking about something that this channel actually cares about. Nintendo Switch 2 stuff. Now, yesterday we of course talked about the motherboard being leaked for the Nintendo Switch 2, giving us a bit of a glimpse at the technical prowess that should be available for this system. Now, of course, looking at this stuff, you could kind of deduce different things from it and take away your own opinions. And a lot of armchair analysts on the internet have been talking about this and kind of downplaying what this system is going to be. Now, I'm not saying that they're necessarily wrong or right. It's really just opinion based right now, because if you know anything about power in video game consoles, it's not how much power you have, it's what you do with the power that you have access to. We've seen that time and time again throughout the course of video game history. But looking at the Nintendo Switch 2, one of the main things that I've been talking about is the fact that there's going to be some form of DLSS, some form of artificial upscaling to help alleviate some of the power needs for some of the bigger games. Well, a patent was applied for and approved yesterday that was put up online that kind of details all of this stuff that Nintendo is potentially doing with the Nintendo Switch 2. I'm not going to say that this is 100% a foregone conclusion, but I think everything kind of lines up to where what we've been expecting with this system, and it does make sense in the grand scheme of things. So we're going to talk about this patent. Stick around to the end of the video. I might have to yell about something that's completely unrelated to all of this, but over on Blue Sky, which is a platform that I will never use. The only blue sky I care about is the song from Daytona, USA. Blue, blue skies, blue, blue skies. Like, it's corny to me. Like, oh, I don't like Elon Musk. Like bro, if I didn't do this as a job, like I wouldn't be on like Twitter and Blue Sky and stuff like that. Like, who cares about what I have to say about anything? And this write-up is coming to us from Laura Kate Dale. You know, it's Laura Kate Dale, but this is not an opinion piece or anything like that, or a quote-unquote insider leak. This is just information that is readily available that you can double-check that they just happen to summarize, so that's what we're going to use with this. Another new Nintendo patent published yesterday seems to again verify claims that the Switch 2 will use DLSS-style AI upscaling, NVIDIA chip, to improve output resolution for games, rather than trying to natively run them at higher resolutions. And once again, that is something that I have talked about time and time again, because the way that this artificial upscaling is coming along and just how fast it's been coming along and how proven the methods are, especially on lower end PCs. I mean, the results speak for themselves. You're getting better visual clarity. You're getting higher resolutions. In some cases, you're getting higher frame rates, which is what's most important in this situation. But this doesn't seem just like a copycat DLSS, copy and paste sort of thing, because there are some additional things that are included in this. Now, before we get into all of that, though, I do want to say that we've already seen some forms of this upscaling done with Nintendo Switch games to begin with. There's been FSR technology that has been used for upscaling various Nintendo Switch games. We saw it with games like Nintendo Switch Sports and stuff like that. So this isn't necessarily a new thing, but that was more so at a software level, where each individual piece of software could utilize something like this. This is more so at a hardware level, to where anything can take advantage of it. Perhaps the most interesting piece of this, after a lengthy read, is that one example use case given is explicitly to reduce overall game sizes to fit a modern game onto smaller capacity physical media. For example, Switch carts, which gets exponentially more expensive for larger carts. So that's actually something very interesting, and that's actually something I kind of want to talk about a little bit as well as we go on throughout this video, because this has actually brought up a bit of a concern for some people, and I kind of want to talk about that. The example given is that a game with native 4K textures might need a 60 gigabyte download, but a 1080p native version might only need 20 gigabytes, which would allow it to fit on a 32 gigabyte Switch cartridge, the current max size Nintendo produces for the Switch 1. The idea being to do a 4 times upscale on a device in real time. Also of note, all of these examples given in the patent talk about speeds and accuracy of either 540p to 1080p or 1080p to 4K upscales. And then they go on, Laura goes on to talk about other things, talk about the chipset, blah, blah, blah. Okay, now we're starting to veer off of the course of the information and getting into opinions, and I really don't care about Laura Kate Dale's opinions about this system. But there are some things I want to bring up with this. So first and foremost, there are questions around that being a thing. So the whole, if it's made with 4K textures, it would be 60 gigs. But if it's made with 1080p textures, it would be 20 gigs, thus reducing the size. And then the artificial upscaling comes along and brings it up to speed. Now, one concern that I've seen with people, there's actually been two different concerns that I just kind of want to spitball some ideas with you guys. So the first concern is that, using this artificial upscaling when in handheld mode would significantly drain the battery. And to that I say, well, you're not really using it in handheld mode. The example given is what? A 1080p image to a 4K image, thus making the size smaller when you're in docked mode. The system itself is not going to output to 4K in handheld mode. At max, it's going to be 1080p. So that's not going to be a bigger drain on the battery life when you're playing it in handheld mode, because it's not using those additional DLSS style resources in order to upscale the image quality for the handheld mode, because it's already at its peak. I mean, when you look at the Nintendo Switch as it stands now, the system can only output to 720p, and many games output to 1080p when in docked mode. So it's something similar to that. I don't think that that's necessarily a big concern or like a big worry with this, like as far as battery consumption is consumed. Now, there could be case-by-case bases where maybe a game is rendering at 720p and they want to upscale it to 1080p to keep the file size a bit lower, and then that would impact the battery. But that's not as big of a jump. It's not as intensive of a resource. Think about it from an emulation perspective. Okay, so when you're emulating something, especially older consoles like a PS2 or something like that, you could go all the way up to 4K internal resolution upscaling if your computer allows it. It is restricted by the power of the computer. So if your computer is beefy enough, it can do that. But if you're on a lower end machine, it won't be able to do that. That's kind of how I envision this. Docked mode, you're going to be able to do a bit more in terms of visuals, considering you're going to be playing on potentially a 4K television than you would in handheld mode, because it makes sense. The handheld mode itself does not have a 4K screen. It's pointless. The screen is not big enough to have the benefits of being in 4K, because it's a smaller, potentially 8-inch screen. The second thing I've been seeing with this, though, is something that I think is a bit more of a discussion piece, is that third-party developers could then potentially be lazy with the Switch 2 versions of games and this just rely on this artificial upscaling. But once again, to that I say, look at how PC games are. If you have a game that is applicable with DLSS and you have a lower end machine, you don't necessarily have to go out and buy a beefier machine to have higher resolutions and higher frame rates. The artificial upscaling itself does that. I think the one thing is how artificial upscaling has been handled with the PlayStation 5 as of right now, with the PSSR that they are using, and that people see that certain games, it actually makes performance worse on things like that. But you got to remember, that's something that's been implemented along the road. This isn't something that's been implemented since day one. I would imagine, and once again, this is just me speculating, but I would imagine that this artificial upscaling is a bit more ironed out, especially considering who is behind it. NVIDIA, the people who make DLSS, which is the premier upscaling technology currently for PC gamers and PC games. So to me, all of this sounds great. All of this sounds great. This is exactly what I want the system to have within it. This is what I want the system to be able to do, because like I've said time and time again, you're at the point of diminishing returns with just raw power. Like, there's only so much a developer can do with raw power to make it, applicable on a console. At some point in time, you're going to need a different method. And I think this is the future. I know people don't like AI, and I don't like AI for creative jobs, but this isn't necessarily a creative thing. This is a tool that is assisting, that is going to make games look, run, and play better for the consumer, not at the loss of any jobs or anything like that. The AI isn't making the game. The AI is just simply upscaling the game's image on a applicable device to make things run better. I do have one question though. Are these enhancements going to be backwards compatible with the current Nintendo Switch library? And if they are, what does that say about the Switch 2 library as far as piracy is concerned? Because you got to imagine that Nintendo has somewhat learned a lesson with the piracy problems of the current Nintendo Switch. I mean, everyone and their mother could pretty much get a Nintendo Switch emulator on anything from like a $300 mini PC to up and run games just as good, if not even potentially better than they run on a Nintendo Switch system. So how much, R&D did they put into some anti-piracy measures? And will the DLSS potentially affect those anti-piracy measures? Because what if you get a game but you need a way to access DLSS? Like that's a whole nother question in and of itself. And that's not a road I want to travel down with this video. Let's just keep it simple for this video, and then maybe we'll explore it a little bit later. But that's what's going on with this. So I think this all sounds great. This is what I want. I think this is what most Switch owners want. They want games to look, run, and play better on the Switch. The Switch itself is a cool system. First-party Nintendo games in 4K, like art style is so important with these games, and they do really good art style. And now that you got that additional power, I think it's going to be really good. Except for Pokemon games, they're still going to look like dog shit. Anyways, guys, that is the main portion of this video. I will bid you farewell unless you want to listen to me rant about something for a minute or two that makes me very angry, that has nothing to do with this video. Check out other videos on the channel. Hit subscribe if you're new. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later. All right, are they gone? Optimum. Where the hell do you get off taking away my MSG on January 1st? MSG is how I watch the Nick games, through my Optimum cable TV provider. I have my internet and TV through Optimum. I have Optimum strictly to watch the damn Knicks games, and you took it away from me because you can't reach a deal. You can't reach a deal with the MSG networks. Who the hell do you think? This is a historic Knicks team, and you're taking this away from me? I've already called you out on social media. You literally have 72 hours to figure this out, or else I'm getting rid of my cable with you. And I know I hit the microphone, but I don't care. You gave me a $60 credit because I called and complained. So maybe I'll give you a month. Maybe I'll give you a month to iron this out. But I've already had to download the Gotham Sports app and stream it on my television. And you know what? The stream quality is fine. However, I watch Knicks Fans TV with my buddy CK2K and his game by game, or his play-by-plays for each game. And you know what? I'm a minute behind. He's watching on League Pass, and I'm a minute behind, and I can't use League Pass because it's a blackout. What the hell is this shit? I want to watch sports. Why is it so hard to watch my local sports team? I'm not asking for a team halfway across the country. I'm asking for a team that's local to me. Go to hell, Optimum. Figure this out. All right, goodbye.